The manicured lawns and vibrant flower beds of Sunnyvale seemed to hum with the promise of a perfect summer evening. Children's laughter danced on the gentle breeze, mingling with the aroma of barbecue grills. But beneath the idyllic facade, a current of fear began to course through the heart of this peaceful suburb. A darkness had descended upon the community, leaving residents grappling with an unspeakable horror that shattered their tranquil existence. The Greenes, the epitome of suburban happiness, were gone. Michael and Terri Greene were the quintessential American couple. Their storybook home, with its wraparound porch and tire swing hanging from the old oak tree, stood as a testament to their shared dreams. Michael, a successful architect with a warm smile, was the life of the party. Terri, a dedicated teacher known for her infectious laugh, was the heart and soul of their community. They were living proof that happiness could be found in the simplicity of a life well lived. Neighbors often reminisced about summer barbecues filled with laughter and the heartwarming sight of Michael and Terri tending to their garden, their love blossoming alongside their prize-winning roses. Little did they know a storm was brewing, one that would soon rip through the fabric of their idyllic community. The first sign that something was amiss came on a Tuesday evening. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden hue over the quiet suburban street. It was the kind of evening where everything seemed perfect, almost idyllic. But beneath this serene facade, something sinister was brewing. The deafening silence emanating from the Greenes' home was unusual, to say the least. Normally, the house was filled with the sounds of life, laughter, conversations, the occasional bark of their dog. But tonight, it was eerily quiet, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Their next-door neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, a kind elderly woman who always kept a watchful eye on the neighborhood, noticed newspapers piling up on their doorstep. She'd lived in the neighborhood for over 30 years and had seen families come and go. But the Greenes were different. They were always punctual, always reliable. Concern gnawed at her. She decided to investigate. As she rounded the corner of their house, a chilling sight stopped her dead in her tracks. The usually well-kept garden was in disarray, with plants uprooted and garden tools strewn about. It was as if a storm had passed through, leaving chaos in its wake. The back door swung open, revealing a scene of unimaginable chaos inside. Furniture was overturned, and personal belongings were scattered everywhere. It was clear that something terrible had happened here. A shattered vase lay on the floor, its delicate porcelain fragments scattered like fallen stars. The vase had been a wedding gift, a symbol of love and unity, now reduced to a pile of broken pieces. Crimson splatters stained the pristine white walls, a grotesque parody of modern art. The blood was fresh, still glistening under the dim light. It was a stark contrast to the otherwise immaculate home, a horrifying reminder of the violence that had taken place. A scream caught in Mrs. Peterson's throat as she fumbled for her phone, her trembling fingers barely able to dial 911. Her mind raced with questions. What had happened to the Greenes? Were they safe? As she waited for the operator to pick up, she couldn't shake the feeling that their peaceful neighborhood would never be the same again. Within minutes, the quiet street was filled with the flashing lights of police cars. Officers moved quickly, securing the scene and beginning their investigation. Neighbors gathered, whispering in hushed tones, their faces etched with worry and fear. The police tape went up, cordoning off the area. Detectives and forensic teams combed through the house, searching for clues. Every detail was meticulously documented, every piece of evidence carefully collected. The once peaceful home had become a crime scene, a place of horror and mystery. Mrs. Peterson gave her statement to the police, recounting everything she had seen and heard. Her voice trembled as she spoke, the shock of the discovery still fresh. She couldn't believe that something so terrible could happen in their quiet neighborhood. The neighbors huddled together, offering each other comfort and support. They had always felt safe here in their little corner of the world. But now, that sense of security was shattered, replaced by a lingering fear of the unknown. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, the streetlights flickered on, casting long shadows on the now deserted street. The once vibrant neighborhood was cloaked in darkness, a stark reminder of the shattered peace that had once reigned here. Whispers and shadows filled the air as news of the horrific discovery at the Greenes' home spread through Sunnyvale like wildfire. The once serene and picturesque neighborhood was now shrouded in an eerie silence, broken only by the hushed conversations of its residents. The Greenes, a family known for their kindness and community spirit, had become the center of a chilling mystery that no one could have anticipated. The idyllic facade of the community crumbled, replaced by shock, disbelief, and a growing sense of dread. The streets that once echoed with the laughter of children and the friendly banter of neighbors were now filled with the murmurs of fear and speculation. What had happened behind the closed doors of the Greenes' home? The question lingered in the air, heavy and oppressive. Neighbors gathered in hushed groups, their faces etched with worry and confusion. Conversations that once revolved around weekend plans and community events now centered on the grim discovery. The sense of security that had defined Sunnyvale was shattered, replaced by an unsettling awareness of vulnerability. Parents held their children a little closer, and doors that were once left open were now firmly locked. How could this happen here, in a place where everyone knew each other, where trust was the foundation of their community? The Greenes were not just neighbors, they were friends, confidants, and pillars of the community. The shock waves of the incident rippled through Sunnyvale, leaving no one untouched. In their safe haven, their sanctuary from the evils of the world, Sunnyvale had always been a place where people felt protected, where the troubles of the outside world seemed distant and irrelevant. But now, that sense of invincibility was gone, replaced by a stark realization that danger could strike anywhere, at any time. The tranquility of Sunnyvale was replaced by the piercing wail of sirens as police cars and news vans descended upon the once peaceful cul-de-sac. The flashing lights and blaring sirens were a stark contrast to the usual calm of the neighborhood. The presence of law enforcement and media added to the surreal atmosphere, making it clear that this was no ordinary event. Reporters, hungry for a story, swarmed the area, their cameras flashing, capturing the raw emotion etched on the faces of the Greenes' devastated friends and neighbors. Microphones were thrust into the faces of those who knew the family, seeking any morsel of information that could shed light on the tragedy. The media frenzy only heightened the sense of chaos and confusion. The idyllic bubble had burst, leaving behind a residue of fear and uncertainty. The once vibrant and lively streets of Sunnyvale now felt empty and eerie, as if the very soul of the community had been drained. The residents were left to grapple with their new reality, a reality where the safety and security they had taken for granted were no longer assured. The neighborhood reels, struggling to find its footing in the aftermath of the unthinkable. The investigation, a desperate search for answers. The night was thick with tension, the air heavy with the weight of uncertainty. Flashing lights painted the scene in hues of red and blue, a stark contrast to the darkness that enveloped the neighborhood. Detective John Riley, a seasoned investigator with a world-weary demeanor and eyes that seemed to have witnessed every shade of human darkness, arrived at the crime scene. His presence commanded respect, his reputation preceding him. He had seen it all, or so he thought, until tonight. The weight of the community's grief settled upon him, a heavy mantle of responsibility urging him to find answers. The faces of the grieving community members, their eyes filled with sorrow and fear, were a constant reminder of the stakes. They looked to him for hope, for justice, for closure. Every fiber of his being was dedicated to piecing together the fragments of this shattered piece, to deliver justice for Michael and Terri. The investigation began immediately. Riley knew that every second counted, every detail mattered. He meticulously documented the scene, his mind racing with possibilities. Forensic teams meticulously combed the Greenes' home for clues, their every move documented by flashing cameras. They worked with precision, knowing that even the smallest piece of evidence could be the key to unlocking the mystery. The house, once a place of warmth and safety, was now a cold, sterile crime scene. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, interviewing residents, desperate to uncover any shred of information that could lead them to the perpetrator of this heinous act. They knocked on doors, spoke to neighbors, and pieced together the events leading up to the crime. Each interview was a potential breakthrough, each resident a possible witness. Was it a random act of violence? A burglary gone wrong? The detectives considered every angle, every possibility. They knew that the answer could lie in the most unexpected place, and they couldn't afford to overlook anything. Or was there a more sinister motive at play? Riley pondered the possibilities, his mind racing with theories. Was there someone with a vendetta against the Greenes? Or was it a crime of opportunity, a random act of cruelty? The answers were elusive, but Riley was determined to find them. He knew that the truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered, and he wouldn't rest until he had it. Dead ends and breakthroughs. The case unfolds. Days turned into sleepless nights as Detective Riley and his team tirelessly pursued every lead. The investigation was a grueling labyrinth of dead ends and false hopes. Neighbors, still reeling from the shock, struggled to recall anything unusual. The Greenes, known for their kindness and generosity, seemed to have no enemies. Just when the case seemed to have hit an impasse, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source. A seemingly insignificant detail, a neighbor's recollection of an unfamiliar car parked on the street the night of the murders, provided a much-needed break. The car, a late-model sedan, was traced back to a local rental agency. The name on the rental agreement sent a chill down Detective Riley's spine.